Zambia's Prosper President, KBF, thank you so much for making the time to speak with me on this day tonight.
Good evening, Andrew Mulisha.
From Tende, the last time I saw you was on the 15th of January this year when we had our last interview.
Yes, I remember.
We did speak quite extensively on issues affecting our country.
Mm-hmm.
But I think before we get into the details of why I'm here tonight, I paused to watch some of the art that you have in your office and just along the corridors of your beautiful building. And I think what I see a number of pictures of different people.
Right.
But I think there are 4 pictures that for me stood out for me. There's a picture of a young man. I think you can see it. He's carrying a bottle. I don't know what this picture symbolizes for you or who this young man is. And also there's a picture of 3 girls walking to school, and there's a picture of a woman carrying fruits over her head, and there's a number of pictures of President Edgar Lungu. Which of these 4 pictures would you like to first comment on?
Maybe the picture of Ben.
Okay.
The boy in the red torn. There's a guy called Salim. He's a photographer, and I think he runs Kalemba.
Yes.
Yeah. Just after the elections in, I think 2016, he went around taking pictures, and he found this boy, Ben, muddy, torn clothes, and I think he was looking for someone to sponsor Ben for school and other things. So he took a picture, and the picture touched me because of the posture of the boy. Very happy in his own world, but with very little help. We managed to speak to the parents and began to assist him. But in contrast with the boy with a bottle of water on his shoulder, you would be happy to know that he's a very talented boy, except again in our country, opportunities are not given to everybody, especially when they're orphaned and they don't have the facilities to move up in school or explore their talents. So we started helping him as well. The 3 girls going one direction, going to school, and 1 girl coming one way in the opposite direction, trying to sell. That was an artistic photograph for me because it shows the different levels of opportunity again. These girls are almost the age of the girl carrying the fruit basket, except they're in school. She has no opportunity. So she's got to live off the streets. That hurt me. That's why I love that picture. The longish picture with those girls I think were from the Eastern Province. Those I never got to meet. I never got to speak to, but I think from what Salim told me, I think that was in the Eastern Province. He took that picture. The longest picture with the late President Lungu, I think that's the picture when he was driving in to go and sign the constitutional amendment on the 5th of January 2016. But I bought that picture at a fundraising function when I was in PF. We had a fundraiser at the government complex, which was organized by Honorable Kampiongo at the time. And we were trying to raise funds. If you've seen a picture of the president in a blue outfit suit. Yeah, I think there's a picture around here which will... That was the event.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. The picture where the president is in blue suit. That was where I bought this to help the PF. So I just liked the picture because it was historical.
Yep.
And I thought, memories are supposed to be kept. So I bought the picture from the party. It was on auction. I won that auction, but it was to fundraise for the party. That's time.
Bought it for how much?
Can't remember. I think the bid started off at 20,000 going upwards, but I bought it anyway.
There's another picture that you forgot to comment on. It's a picture of a woman that is carrying fruits.
Everyday life.
Yeah.
According to Salim, that's everyday life in Zambia, where a woman has got baby on the back, fruit basket on the head, and she's trying to make a living. I think from the story that he told me, this is the everyday life of most Zambian women. They're out there early in the morning trying to make a living, and sometimes they're married to men who don't work, retired or things like that, but they have to fend. And you can see how women multitask. Baby on the back, fruit basket, she has to talk to customers, she has to... So it was again a very touching picture, and that's why I bought it.
Is your house like this as well? Full of pictures?
I like keeping memories, especially of people that I've met in life, people I've been with. If you go through the corridors, you find political pictures as well. Chiefs, politicians, legal scholars, some of my learned colleagues in the profession, attorney generals, judges, fellow lawyers. So it's just a collection of history, my history.
Like I said earlier on, the last time I was here, you were giving me a roadmap of how the elections are going to go in the Tonse Alliance, and just how prepared you were as a party, but also as an alliance in regards to the elections of August. Today I'm here, and I was surprised the day that the elections were held for Tonse. I didn't see your face there. I know that a few days prior to that you held a press briefing. You had your issues that you wanted to iron out, but I guess those issues weren't attended to. Let's begin from there.
Thank you. I think the history about Tonse is basically one to do with the late President Lungu. After he had left UCA, he began to put Tonse together, and a lot of players were invited to join Tonse. Upon his demise, we had sort of a power struggle. There were two power points. There was Honorable Given Luwinda on one side, and Professor Daniel Pule on the other. So some of us, like State Councilor Chief Mbanda, myself, that time my brother Sean Tembo and others, began to talk. And we began to say, what does the Constitution of Tonse say? So we actually pushed Professor Danny Pule to say, according to the Constitution, you're the rightful person to lead Tonse in this regard, because he was vice chairman to the late president. But obviously the PF at the time had their own view about how Tonse was going to be run, how Tonse was going to be organized, and things like that. This culminated in a lot of differences within Tonse. It was becoming toxic, tension, and each time you wanted to do certain things, You couldn't move forward. We almost had at the time what people were saying, Tonse A, Tonse B, stuff like that. So we held an emergency meeting and we decided, I think let's give PF some time to go and cool off, sort out their problems, their legal issues, their internal wrangles, their differences, and we allowed them to do that. But at no time during those discussions did we ever say that PF must be divided. No. We wanted PF to resolve their issues and come back as a whole so that we could move together. Unfortunately, we began to see the emergence of a grouping within the Patriotic Front, led by the time the national coordinator, as he was called, Dr. Chris Zumani, who began now to formulate his own grouping within the PF. I realized there's a problem. So at the last time you and I had spoken, and I think the viewers will remember this, we were planning to have a congress within Tonse. But so much happened. You will recall it was almost at the same time that we're having the Chawama by-elections, and then we're planning to have the Kasama by-elections, and then there was all these, there's so many moving points on the chessboard. So I think Chris Zumani took advantage of the confusion and people being busy. He introduced what he termed as the ECO political movement into Tonse and made it so loud that that organization existed away from Balungu. And some of us said, no, this is what ECO used for himself to move away from PF after PF had been stolen by the UPND using their Mengalato and given it to initially Honorable Mao Sampa and eventually to Honorable Chabinga. So ECO needed a voice. He needed a platform from which he could speak. That was the ECO political movement. Somehow Dr. Chris Zumani gave it a life of its own, as if he owned it. And then he gave it personalities in the names of the former Secretary General, Davis Muida, MPs such as Brian Mundubile, Mototo Kafwaya, Stephen Kampiongo, and others. So when I saw this new faction, I realized these are PF chaps. So why are they coming under this umbrella when ECL himself is dead? Because that was his movement. It wasn't a Zumani movement. At the meeting, one of the meetings, I asked, why are these people coming when they haven't resolved the PF issues that we had said they should go and resolve? No answers were being given. That's number one. Number two, Zumani started recruiting a lot of NGOs and CSOs and individual persons. He called these are eminent people. They were either friends of the party, PF, or friends of Balungu, and he purported he knew them. And he started bringing them in. If you've run an election, Bamwansa, you understand you're going to an election. This is the electoral college being cultivated by an individual. For what benefit? In politics, you will know, as well as I do, that it's always about interest. Whose interest are you running? Intelligence began to visit me that there are meetings which are being held behind closed doors, even behind Professor Danny Pule, behind Bachifumu Banda, State Council, or President of FDD at the time. And they were being dribbled. I refused to be dribbled. I just said, I can't be part of this. So I took that question to our National Management Committee which is the NCT, and I asked our Zambia Must Prosper Management Committee, we have these issues. What do you want me to do? And they said, no. We didn't go to Tonse to go and be dribbled out of an election. It must be free, fair, and based on equal footing. The other thing, thirdly, that Zumani did, somehow he plucked numbers out of the sky. He said the ECO political movement, the membership was going to be this number multiplied to a factor of 3, giving them a head start as an advantage. There is no way, Vamwansa, viewers, that you're going to run a 100 meters race and your friend is starting off at the 50-meter mark and you're at the 100-meter mark, but you're running 100 meters. He's only got 50 meters to go. You've got 100. I said, for what? So the elections or the Congress that was being organized had a lot of these machinations. And some of us said, no. This is unfair.
But this has been a challenge from the word go. Even when you released those resolutions, when Professor Daniel Pule released the resolutions of how you are going to change the constitution, I think I posed the question to you on how it's going to be fair that the ECO movement will provide this number of people that are more than any other political party. And I asked how this is going to be fair when you go to an election. You said
I'm glad you're repeating the question, Wamansa. You see, when you're in an organization which is like an umbrella and you want peace and you want to show that you want to work with your comrades, your colleagues, you give them enough room to hang themselves. Because what we wanted to see is what's the logic. We believed a time will come when we'll have to ask those questions. When we began to ask those questions, hence the problems. Because Zumani now couldn't give answers. And then this intelligence which started visiting us, telling us, this is what's being discussed when they are meeting and drinking wherever they are meeting. I don't drink, I don't smoke. So when they meet at 02 in the morning or at midnight, I'm not there. But some of those same people came out and said, this is what is being planned against you. And what was the nail in the coffin, really for me, was everybody said, we are scared of KBF. So he must be dribbled. If you realized, there was a date set for the Congress. Then they said they were going to move it further away because they wanted to give the MPs and the other people who were taking part in the by-elections in Kasama. They didn't hold the Congress on that date. So when our NCT wrote an ultimatum, we said, can we have the answers to these questions? We raised a series of questions. Not even the courtesy of calling an emergency meeting, not even the courtesy of having a discussion. I visited my older brother, State Council Chifumu Banda, on several occasions. I visited Danny Pule and we spoke. He also came here in my office to discuss with me. I visited other members one-on-one and I was asking the same questions. What are we doing on this issue? What are we doing on this issue? No one was giving me answers. But you see, when you have been in politics as long as I have, you realize either monies have exchanged to buy the silence or buy some people. I began to look at what politics is all about. What is the interest? Whose interest is being served? And why are these people curving out whatever they're curving out? I realized, no, there's a problem. So when we were not answered and the ultimatum date ran, we decided, no, we are not going to take part in these elections because they are a sham. And as intelligence would have it later, some of the boys that took part in the so-called Congress, they came and visited us. They told us how they were picked up from various points, taken into some hall somewhere, either in Makeni or something, some place owned by some Chinese man, and how they were paid to vote a certain way. Those were the kind of NGOs and CSOs that Zumani was trying to tell the public he was running. Those are one-man NGOs, one-man Congress. Those boys, when they were picked up, they were told they were going for a PF meeting at the secretariat of the PF. They ended up at that Congress to vote. Ubufi, weka.
How did you foresee this? You are considered to be one of the smartest political strategists.
Exactly, we had the intelligence.
But it appears you are dribbled.
No, I wasn't dribbled. I dribbled them.
But how did you...
They wanted me to go to court. They were expecting me to go to court for an injunction. They are injunction for what, Bamwansa? I am a president of a political party. Okay? The political party that has been to a convention. I have been elected by a political party. Those people being elected, they're being elected by who? 192 delegates picked from around Lusaka. Is that a convention? No. Number two, Tonse is not a legal entity. There are things you can fight for in life. There are things you ignore. And nonsense, Bamwansa, you ignore. It's a waste of time. So they thought they were dribbling me. They're dribbling themselves. Legitimacy is lacking in this Tonse right now, this faction being led by Brian Mundubile, because there's no legitimacy. He was standing...
How didn't you see this from the word go, President KBF? Because when you began holding those press briefings with Daniel Pule and Dr. Zumani Zimba, I think the world knew that this was... you were setting up a platform for Brian Mundubile. Like, everybody knew that you were trying to steer Brian Mundubile to take over Tonse.
No.
How did you know?
At that time, if you remember, the ECO political movement, which Zumani brought as a faction of PF, didn't exist. We were dealing with PF, which is run by Honorable Givenwind. This now came Ngomunu Wapakati, Wapulam. So we were not setting up for Brian Mundubile, no. But because Zumani has always been a corrupt chap, he loves money. He was bought.
Bought by who?
By Mundubile. This is all corruption. Do you remember this is the same Zumani who ran the elections for Walungu in 2021? No president goes for an election without releasing money to his structures, to his MPs and things like that. Some of that money never landed. It was used to do other things. Part of the reason they lost the elections. Zumani planned that election, but he hoodwinked Walungu. That's how they lost. He was playing with the same people that he has gone to get. They were stealing money from Walungu, not taking it to the structures. He was using the secretariat. Who was the Secretary General of PF at the time? Davis Mwila, who is the same person he brings to be the representative of the ECO political movement. This is the same Davis Mwila who was selling parliamentary seats for PF. That's why we had 13, 14 independents coming out of PF to stand on their own, because they realized they were popular on the ground. They were going to win the elections. Davis Mwila was selling seats to people who were the highest bidders. That's not how you run a secretariat. This is the same Davis Mwila who was beaten in Chipiri by an independent, Jarvis Chavi, Kuchipiri Kuruapula, beaten when he was Minister of Home Affairs. Then Valungu Vamumfilo Secretary General. He continues his corruption and selling of seats in the party. That's how they lost. If PF ever took out a post-mortem as to how they lost elections, one of the biggest people who made them lose elections was Dr. Chris Zumani. Second, Davis Mwina as Secretary General. And what I'm telling you, go and ask the PF. They'll confirm. Because if they ever took out any post-mortem, that is why Walungu, in the end, began to realize these are the same people who made me lose elections. So when he came back, he started calling some of us who he had worked with previously and won elections. And some of the private discussions I had with Walungu were exactly what I'm telling you. He realized these people cannot be trusted. And I know for a fact that he didn't want Zumani anywhere near my meetings with him. Whenever I met Walungu, he told me everybody must leave. So I know what I discussed with late Lungu as president.
Is it a matter of fact or assumption to suggest that Dr. Zumani Zimba received money from Brian Mundubile?
You know, in politics, Vamwans, you look at the actions. Look at the actions. Don't look at what the person is saying, Pakano. Look at what he's doing. When Chris Zumani brought the ECL political movement, he was bidding for somebody. Who was that person? That's the question you must be asking. Not whether or not money is exchanged. Was he doing it for free? You think Zumani works for free? I know Chris. He doesn't work for free. No. He was doing someone's bidding. And eventually, when the candidature of Mundubile came on the table, we realized now, aha, this is the paymaster. So he exposed himself. Actions in politics matter more than the words. Never ever shake hands with a person in politics and say it's done. No, look at his actions. 2, look at the interest that he's serving. Today, if Professor Danny Pule is going to be honest, and he's our older brother, a Christian man, former minister, good qualifications, but he was dribbled. The person dribbled in this thing, not Danny Pule. The person dribbled in this thing is Chifu Mubanda, State Council. I'm sorry to say. Not me. I saw it. I refuse to take part in this nonsense.
In what way was Chifu Mubanda dribbled?
Wasn't it agreed that we were going to be using his political party, FDD, as a special purpose vehicle? Today, which vehicle do you think they want to use to run on? They don't have a party. Let me put it to you this way, Andrew.
But this is someone who is
Brian Mundubile and his MPs, the clique of MPs that he controls, don't have a political party. So how do they partake in the next coming general elections? They need a vehicle. So that's why I come batika kuli wachifumu banda. Now wachifumu banda, with the greatest respect, State Council also inherited the political party after the demise of our late sister Edith Nawagwe. He also hasn't been to a convention. So the legitimacy of wachifumu banda now is also in question. So how do you pass on leadership, FDD, without going to a convention? There will be problems soon. Watch this space. I'm not wishing them ill, but if you're a political animal and you've been around, trust me, you're going to see these problems.
Those that are close to Brian Mundubile, like Comrade, you know this gentleman, Cheno Dangwira,
yes,
have gone on social media to describe you as a bitter man.
Bitter?
In fact, he posts every day to say you are a bitter man, you've never participated in any election, but you want to portray a certain political clout and you're overrating yourself.
Chanoda Umozi Kumaba, so-called spokesperson.
He says you're a bitter man, you're overrating yourself.
Let me say this once. First of all, with the greatest respect, Chanoda is not in my league. No, let's agree. Chanoda does not have a political party. No. So he's not a president I can exchange words with. But now that you've asked the question, I'm bitter. Let me tell the Zambians this so that we get this out of the way. Okay? When Bakaunda ran to be president of this country during the struggle for independence, he was never a councillor, he was never a minister, but he became president. Am I right? Don't answer, think about it. It's history. When the second Republican president came to run for presidency, Bachiruba, he was never a councillor, he was never a minister. Am I right? Go and look in your annals of history. Those are facts. Levi Patrick Mwana was never a councillor, he was never a minister. He just became president. 3/4 of the leaders we've had in this country, including the current president, have never been a councillor, they've never been a minister, they've never been a parliamentarian, but they've ascended to be the president. What matters is what you have in your head and the leadership qualities that you possess. It's about character. So it's not about whether or not I've run these offices. No, I've been around politics. My father was a politician. I sat on the laps of the late Simon Mwansaka Pwepo when he was running with my father under UPP. I've been around politicians long enough to understand what politics is. My father was arrested on several occasions under the preservation of public security. I lived in a political home. What home is Chanoda coming from? These are just small boys who want money. Whenever you see people write that, ask them who is bidding for them. I know who's bidding. Chanoda is doing. So leave him out of this. But I'll say this without sounding difficult. What hurts people like that? Oh, by the way, might I add, he's been to my office begging for money. I've helped him. He's just a poor boy. I've helped him. Just like he's eating money from other people now. But when you see that you leave him. Because I couldn't do some of the things he wanted me to do. That's why he's writing what he's writing.
What did you want to do? What did he want you to do?
He wanted to be on a payroll. I don't have time. You know Honorable Chitotela. He's in custody in Kabwe. Go and ask Chitotela about Chanoda. You know Honorable Mwamba, Emmanuel Mwamba in the States? Ask Emmanuel Mwamba, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, about Chanoda. That's who Chanoda is. He's a freelance, just wants money left, right. Says he's a leader of some Kumozu Kumara. Who elected him? What organization is this? These are some of the CSOs, NGOs we found in Tonse. Loud-mouthed, yes. What's his problem? So he can say anything he wants to say about me. I really don't mind. And I've got enough of a thick skin to take it. I'll clap for him. But you can never be me. That is why Wasata respected me to run his elections. That is why Lungu respected me to run the elections twice. That is why HH called me to assist him under the UPND Alliance to run part of his elections. What elections has Chanoda run? It's not my fault. And I will not apologize for being who I am. No. So all those writings that he's saying I'm a bitter man, bitter with who? With what? Why am I going to be bitter? But like I keep saying, Kuma Zambians, and I'll repeat one answer here. I know most of these players. I know them individually and severally when they group themselves up. So when you read the things you're talking about, just ignore them with the contempt they deserve. I will not respond.
You seem to suggest that in your recent interview that Mundubile has no capacity to unseat President Hakainde Hichilema.
None.
What did you mean?
He doesn't have it. He can't plan an election at national level. He can't. I know that. He's full of confusion. I know that. And when you want to steal leadership, who's going to follow you? Legitimacy is lacking. There's this hype with you people in the media. There's this hype with paid surrogates like the Chanoda boys to make noise that you BM8 this, BM8 that. Yeah, they can go with that hype. But some of us who run elections, who understand grassroots politics, we're on the ground. We have already, as a political party, Zambia Must Prosper, we have unleashed the yellow bees. We are everywhere. Today, our regalia is as far as Shangombo, as far as Mwinilunga, as far as Imbala, Mporokoso, as far as the Chozi, as far as Nakonde. Even where Brian Mundubile comes from in Porokosa, my t-shirts and chitenges are there. What does he know? We're on the ground. My leadership is already there. A leader who doesn't know how to delegate is not a leader. No. Leadership is also about delegation. You can't do everything. Weka. People are saying, no, KBF, but can't you see me on the ground? If you can see my provincial chairman, you can see my district chairman, you can see my constituency chairman, I'm there. What I need to do now is just to visit. Leadership is about how many people you have in your network. But why you see these boys traversing the country and running around is because they want to make a footprint now. That's why they're hopping up and down. I was chairman of elections in PF. I've been across this country. I don't have to be introduced to anybody. I've also been in the legal fraternity 35 plus years, practicing this law. I've won cases for people. People know me. Which cases has Brian Mundubile won? Even as a lawyer. He's never practiced. So when you say, akawina my elections, where? It's not just about Kwisapa TV, wala ndefi sungu, ule ponta, ule. No. We can all sit here and criticize what the UPND is doing. That's as good as being in grade 7. Every grade 7 chap can do that. Everybody knows we've got problems with electricity, energy, and things like that. Everybody knows CDF is not working. This free education has got problems. Our agriculture sector is not working. Everybody knows that. If you come on TV and repeat that, that doesn't make you a leader. People are looking for solutions. What are you going to do? Go and ask them about their manifesto. What is the manifesto of this Tonse-led faction by Brian Mundubile? What do they want to do for Zambians?
Others have argued that the Tonse faction led by Brian Mundubile is the only faction, is the only alliance at the moment that has some semblance of organization and some semblance of, national character that, is ready to get into this election. And understandably so for people that think like that, because you have been preaching, opposition unity, but 200 days to go before an election, you people still fighting each other.
I'm not, no, correction. Let's take 2 steps back. I'm not fighting anybody. In fact, from where I'm sitting, we are building. We're talking.
What are you building? What are you talking to?
That's the problem. I have said this once or twice before. When you are building, you are working in the background, keep it there until it's ready. We are talking with friends. If that is what you term as a legitimate alliance, those are just PF guys who meet at cocktails at Parliament Motel. What national character is that? You tell me. I don't see that as national character. No. The leaders we are talking to. We have also gone down, not just at the ECL legacy. We've gone down to find senior members of the PF that Wasata worked with. We're talking. And they're also worried about this country. You've heard of the Council of Elders. They're also worried about this country. We're engaging one-on-one. It's not everything we're going to publicize. We're not chanodas who just, want to be on social media every day. No, we meet, we talk. Serious matters. And when we come and tell you, now we are ready to tell you the direction we're giving the country, you will see it. Trust me, you will see it. It won't be the kind of noise these boys are making. No, we're not that kind. Let me say this, maybe, the loudest person in the room is not always the most intelligent. No. They can really pange. They are loud. Some of them, that's why they're always ending up on, cyber this, seditious this, because they're loose in their mouths. They don't know what to say. No, nashako kulanda. Watauka. Tekanya.
Do you think time is on your side?
Okay?
Time. Do you think time is on your side?
Oh, very much. Remember, Parliament has not yet been dissolved. There are still people in parliament who haven't made up their minds what they're going to do. But we're talking. We're talking to councillors. We're also talking to other new aspirants who also want to run. So there will be new faces coming in, yes, at council level, mayoral level, chairmanship level at council. New MPs are coming.
Are you talking to UPND members of parliament as well?
I know what's happening in UPND, Ramans. And what's happening in UPND is there are divisions. You people see this confusion in the opposition. The opposition is even better than the confusion in the UPND. If you have any intelligence, you will know that UPND is more fragmented today. Why? Because the president is panicking. There are senior members of UPND who he doesn't want to stand. They want to go back to parliament. They are saying, we can't bring you this far and you tell us stories. No, we still want to continue. He wants a new crop of leaders, which he's using this young boy, Jito, to go and build up a new crop of so-called leaders within UPND. That's one. Number two, there are problems with how they want to run this election. Why are you not asking UPND when they are going for their convention? It's 5 years since the last convention. Under Article 60 of the Zambian Constitution, they must go for a convention. Why are they not going? Why are you not asking them that? There are problems there. Apapakati, Mwaisa Umfat, 2-3 ministers have been dropped. There are issues. This Bill 7 is an issue. The delimitation is an issue. The Electoral Process Act is an issue. There are fights within UPND. Yes, in answer to your question, we are talking to UPND members and they are telling us what's happening inside. But I can't name them, obviously, for obvious reasons, isn't it?
As we close, I would like to pick your thoughts as Zambia must prosper on the conflict that is in the Middle East.
Yes.
Obviously, we've heard on how this will impact us as a continent, but also one of our, one of our subsectors, which is the energy sector, is going to be impacted through, fuel. I'd like to pick your thoughts on the conflict and whether we must take a side, we must comment on this issue.
That's a very important question, and from foreign policy perspective, I think we must remain with what our forefathers left us. We've always been an unaligned country. And I would suggest very strongly to the government in power today, we must maintain that route. We must not take sides. That's extremely important for the country that we are. But you ask about the conflict. According to the United States and Israel, this was a preventive strike on Iran. Based on what intelligence? My view, this is the personal opinion I hold, is that the President of America should have allowed the discussions that were going on to reach a conclusion. They were mediators. I know that Iran doesn't trust America. I know America doesn't trust Iran. Iran doesn't trust Israel. These are facts. It's not me saying it. It's historical. Even when they were having their discussions, the Iranian foreign minister refused to be in the same room with the American delegation. He was in a different room. The mediators were taking notes to American groupings, come back, then they take the note to the Israeli group, and like that. For me, I think Qatar, Jordan, and the Middle Eastern countries, they must first of all look at their region and say, do we need peace here? If so, what can we do to harness this peace? From an economic perspective, you're right. The Straits of Hormuz, 33 kilometers straight. If statistics are correct, 21% of the entire global oil passes through there. China, India, supply from there, Africa as well, is going to affect us. It's true. If Trump's assertion is correct and he says this war sees it lasting 3, 4, 5 weeks, we're going to be impacted from a perspective of energy. However, if you go to the original plan, America thought they were going to do, forgive the expression, a Maduro. They thought this war was going to last 4 or 5 days. Done. Iran has been preparing for this war for the last 10, 15 years. They know how to handle this war. The 12 days war last year, for them was a dress rehearsal. They felt the impact of the Israeli bombs. Then they realized how to penetrate and get through the Iron Dome of Israel. So Israel now is exposed. But you see, it's an economic war because Iran can produce drones in mass. Those drones cost $20,000, $15,000. The interceptors are costing $4 million. So when Iran unleashes 100 drones, $20,000 each, to intercept them, 4 million, 4 million, 4 million, 4 million, America, Israel is going to be hurt financially. So it's who blinks in this war, who begins to bleed financially. That's how this war is going to end. But you've seen the American president say he wants a ceasefire. That's good. But Iran has rejected it. And they're saying if there's going to be a ceasefire, it will be on our terms. Why? You don't kill a leadership. And then you say, I have a ceasefire. And then you tell them, don't defend yourselves. That's not the spirit of the Iranian people. I'm just analyzing what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing. So from my perspective, yes, Africa and Zambia in particular will be impacted by what's going on in that small region. But what we should look at Zambia is to keep away as far as possible. Don't take sides, be non-aligned and watch. Because we don't have any oil reserves here. Our oil comes from there. Whichever country we buy it from, but it comes from there. That is why for me it is important that we as Africans begin to have a second area where we get our oil from. Our neighbors in Angola here, I'm told Tanzania, Uganda, Kenya have discovered some oil around here. Pipelines can be laid from here. That's what we should be looking at, so that we avoid all these costs coming from the Middle East, because whatever happens there affects us. Yes. That's my view.
Zambia's President KBF, thank you so much for making the time to speak with me. That's our show for tonight. Thank you so much for watching.